Hello, hello. Y'all, I'm still struggling over here. I still don't have like a proper setup over here. I also didn't meet my goal this month. I was hoping to use 4 palettes. I was kind of not necessarily pushing myself, but I think I definitely ended up lagging a little bit more than I would have liked. So in the past month of June, I only used 3 palettes, and the 3 palettes that I have today are the Happy palette by KimChiChic. This is the Aurora Cruise by Nomad Cosmetics, and I have Pastel Dreams by GiveMeGlow. These are the only ones that I was able to use. I have another KimChiChic palette that I'll be using sometime soon, but at this point I probably won't show it until my July month reviews. But this is my month in review for June. So let's start off with these. I'm hoping my lighting's not too awful. Like I said, I still haven't figured out the lighting situation. I had to get a new desk. This desk is literally probably 3 or 4 times smaller. But it is what it is. Here we have the KimChiChic, the Happy palette. I am feeling sweet, is what it says. Very cute. And it has the colors on the back of the box. This is the box, and I picked this up because it looks like that this palette was a little bit kind of yellow leaning. On the tab here it says, "Hi darling, salut chérie," and it's, for some reason, some of it's in English and some of it's in French. KimChiChic says, "It doesn't matter where you go, this palette is full of neutrals. This palette full of neutrals will give you the confidence to venture out in the world for any occasion, whether it's work, the gym, or a date." And the ingredients are at the bottom of the box there. And then that's the same thing that's on this side, but in French. It's just a little blurb, but it doesn't seem that any space is wasted. The inside is yellow. I love yellow. And then this palette is plastic, which I'm controversial, I guess, maybe. I kind of like the more long-lasting palettes. I think that, like, I understand the paper ones are probably a bit better eventually for when you need to throw them away. But as kind of like a collector, I like the weight. I like the feeling of something nice and heavier in my hand. So there is a mirror in here. There's a mirror in there. And like I said, I had picked this palette out originally because it's definitely yellow leaning. It's a lot more warm leaning. And I think this palette was pretty decent. I don't remember any of these shades completely blowing me out of the water necessarily. Except for a couple in here that actually really were good. But I think the mattes were pretty solid. I think that there's maybe a shimmer or 2 in here that's a bit too dark for my liking, just because the way that I like to wear makeup, I like my shimmers to be lighter and I like my mattes to be darker. But overall, a pretty good experience with this. I think I would want to revisit this palette and put this up against my other neutral palettes and see which neutral palettes I would actually want to keep and which ones I would not want to keep. I'm not super attached to this palette, but it's a good palette. If you were looking into buying this one, if you had seen it, I do recommend to try it. I think it's a good solid palette. It's very nice and comfortable. I really like this kind of, and I don't know what everyone else likes, but I really like this kind of like pastel kind of feeling. And I don't know if that comes from the fact that, you know, this is created by a drag queen. Maybe they like more oil-based kind of colors, but I also personally really like that. I feel like these colors also last really long. I wonder if I can bring my light a little bit closer over here. Alright, the lighting looks, I think, a lot better. Hopefully not too bright on your end, but for me, it looks a lot better now. So here's the shades that I just swatched. Like I said, I really like the formula. I think I'm the formula on these circular ones, because I tried, I think, there's like a 9-pan one that was all yellow, and I think that one was like, it was alright, but I feel like when I look back at KimChiChic products that I've used, it was one of the weaker palettes. I definitely like this a lot more. I think this middle shade is my favorite. I don't know what it is about a brown shade with a kind of silvery reflect that I just think that is so freaking beautiful. We'll swatch this gold, and then I think maybe let's do one of these. And you can see here, like, I swatched it, and a lot of other shades in other palettes would probably crumble. Not these. I think these are really, really pretty. They held up really nicely. Ooh, I love that shade. Oh, look at the reflect on that. Wow. Here's the gold. That's really pretty. Here's this kind of more reddish, orange, coppery shade. That is so pretty. I really, really like that. That's so nice. So yeah, if you were looking into buying this palette specifically, I do recommend for my own collection. Maybe eventually I'll end up giving it away, but I think it's a pretty decent palette. Now these next two that I used in this past month definitely blew me away. We have here the Aurora Cruise by Nomad Cosmetics. This is pretty new. This came out within the past year, if not honestly within the past couple of months. I feel like this came out with. It came out with a sister palette, which I also have, but I think that's gonna come out possibly a bit later on. Let's see what palettes. I think I may not use that palette until August, but we'll see how fast I get through July. I'm trying to get back into the love of makeup. I just honestly haven't been feeling it recently. I've kind of been on a slump. But here we have the Aurora Cruise palette, and this palette, holy god. I feel like this palette kind of did it. It did it for me. I feel like this palette, this intense shimmer palette where it's all shimmers, this palette is completely all shimmers. I feel like really kind of, it gave me a little bit of a bump. It gave me, you know, a little bit of a renowned love again for the game, for makeup. And it made me a bit excited to use makeup again. And I feel like it was due to this, and I think that's why I was able to finish this other GiveMeGlow palette so fast, because I'm really excited to use the shades in this. This is, wow, I don't have many, but I've always been a girl who loves a full shimmer palette. When I look back at what I used growing up, it was full shimmer palettes. I did not like to use mattes. I learned how to use matte shades recently during the pandemic. I just did not like matte shades. At the time, matte shades were just very powdery and weak if you were looking at more affordable options. And I mean, obviously it's a lot better now, but I didn't come to that realization until the pandemic, that they had a better formula. I loved using this. I loved the colors in here. I loved the formula in this. I don't really feel like there's a weak shimmer in the bunch, like at all. I love the way that it's set up. I think the only real kind of like feedback I have for this is like the colors they chose. I would have liked one more green over here. I would have liked not a pink over here, a purple, maybe a light purple. Maybe this could have gone on over here, honestly. Because I like the way that it was set up. Like, I like having this row of all pinks. I liked having all this row of oranges. And I know it's kind of dumb to be like, oh, let's have a whole row of oranges, let's have a whole row of pinks, right? But I feel like there's enough variety that you could make a look, but at the same time, it's its own color. And that's what I really liked about this over here. Like, over here we have a light blue with a gold reflect, and I feel like this could have been maybe a teal. That would have been interesting to fit along with this green story over here. I'm not saying that we needed to have like a light green, a green, and then a dark tree green, like, you know, the usual colors, but they could have been within that same color format, but a different thing. Like over here, we have this light, pretty, just pale pink with silver shimmer. Over here we have this cotton candy pink with a blue reflect, and then over here we just have pink on pink and a kind of an intense fuchsia pink with pink sparkle. But they're all pinks, but they're all doing their own thing, and they can all work together, but they're still all doing their own thing, and that's what I was hoping for the rest of this. But otherwise than that, that's kind of like my only thing, like, that's the only thing I wish for. The formula in here was just so, so gorgeous. And speaking of pinks, I just, like I said, I love a color with a silvery reflect. There's something just so intense about it that I flip in love. Let's do this pink, and let's do Dancing in Sunlight. So beautiful. What other color did I really enjoy? Prism Tide. I used this recently. I went to Lake Tahoe and I did a like very blue look, and so pretty. Oh my goodness, it's so hard to, I mean, working in a tighter space, so it's hard to see everything. But here's that pink. Oh my lord. I love a wet moment. And you can see these in comparison to the KimChiChic, that the KimChiChic is a lot more of a metallic, and these are like more metallics with sparkle. Let's see this one. Look at that blue. It's just so bright, so colorful. I really, really enjoyed using this palette. Let's do a little bit of some darker shades. I feel like I didn't get to play with the darker shades too much. I kind of used it more for like my outer But let's do a little bit of a swatch on these darker ones. Swatched 3 darker shades in here, just so we could see. This is, wow, like a black base, but it has a kind of gold, green reflect. Wow. And then we have this a shade like this always reminds me of the dress my mom wore during my quinceañera, but it has like a black base with, again, with gold and purple reflect. Like there's just such a change in intensity. And then over here, we're going to do one more. It's giving mermaid. It's a purple with, looks like a teal reflect. Just so pretty, so stunning. I had so much fun with this. If you are a person that loves shimmers like I do, that loves a super intense, wet, sparkly look, I would absolutely recommend these. And with these shades, from what I remember, which shade was it? I used this with other shades from other palettes. You know, I used it as just like, I took one shimmer and then got my mattes from another palette. But I also just did full shimmer looks. Like this was a whole look. The orange looks, that was a whole look. These purples over here with the purple with blue reflect, pink with a blue reflect, black base with a purple reflect. I also used that as one look. I feel like there's enough color in here and enough complementary that if you wanted to, you could just use this palette. I really loved using this palette. I thought it was flipping beautiful. It's a yes for me. I'm absolutely keeping this. I think it is just so beautiful, and I'm so glad I bought it. This is one of, for me, one of Nomad Cosmetics' most memorable palettes. And moving on to the next one, this is Pastel Dreams by GiveMeGlow. It is not new, but I feel like, and I could be absolutely insane, and I may not be remembering this correctly, but I feel like someone in my comments had asked me once if I was going to be buying this Pastel Dreams GiveMeGlow palette, and at that time, I had responded no, because I don't like pastels, and I don't think pastels look good on me, and I've tried so many pastels, so many different brands, and they don't freaking look good on me. It's just, I feel like I look like a crackhead. Like, it just doesn't complement my skin. I feel like it looks so bad. But, y'all, this palette is freaking beautiful, and you can see the setup here. I love the little clouds, but pretty much every shade comes with its matte version and its sparklier shimmer version. So we have the ingredients here on the back. It just says Press Pigment Palette. We're going to pull this out. It looks exactly the same. The letters are raised. They have that texture. And I love how bright and colorful it is. And this is the only pastel palette I'm probably ever going to have in my collection. I absolutely loved this, and it's so freaking beautiful. And there is a mirror in here. There's a mirror in here, but there's also like a border of clouds. And I think you'll immediately see there is a slight issue with the shades in this palette, because for some reason I had a bit of leakage, and it's not. Ooh, I'm getting more over here. So we have leaking over here. You can see the pink coming out. You can see over here as well. There's pink coming out. The biggest one was this one. Like, when I first opened this was not here. The second time I opened this shade was leaking. This shade was leaking pink color. Since then, this shade started leaking pink color. And you can see there's an oil stain. There's an oil stain, and then there's the color stain. And since I've used it, this is new. So that's new being there. I'm also seeing a slight yellow stain on the yellow down here. Same with the green. The green has a stain. It seems like those are the only ones. Oh, we got shade over here. You can see some oil staining, not color staining, but you can see the stain there. That doesn't bother me too much. I'm hoping that doesn't mean that this palette may end up spoiling sooner, but I think it's just because of the texture that these have, that maybe they're a little bit of an oilier shade. But aside from, you know, the spillage onto the palette, I love the setup of this. I love that every shade has a shimmer side and a matte side. And I also love that, even though this is a very colorful palette, I was able to use this all together. I ended up using like 4 shades at a time a lot of the time on this one. but also I could do really simple looks. I feel like this is a really good setup as well when you want to do a very simple look. Like the other day, I ended up using these two shades, the light blue and then the shimmer shade. And I remember I think I went shopping, and the cashier was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry if I'm staring at you. I can't stop staring at your eye makeup." Okay, so you're gonna get, if you wear this, I feel like you're gonna get compliments. I love the setup of this. I think the colors are so freaking pretty, and most importantly for me, as like y'all, I'm not even that dark. I call myself a light medium shade. I don't feel like I am that like terribly dark. Maybe I am a little bit darker now because I've been out in the Nevada sun, but I don't think I'm that dark. So it sucks when I'm using pastels and they look so ashy on me, and it's almost like putting baby powder on me. But for these, oh my god, okay, let's swatch. It's so fluffy. I want to swatch Magic Mint, and I want to swatch these for you because I want you to see these shades that are absolutely like pastel, lighter pastel shades I would never ever gravitate to because they're so light. Let's just do those three right now. So we have a yellow, a mint, and like an orange. It's kind of like tangerine shade. And you can see they're very pigmented. Let's swatch. Oh, I'm going on over here. This is on the first go around. I did have to build them up a little bit, but this is the swatches on the first go around, which I feel like aren't awful. I feel like you can definitely build them up. See, that's already on the second pass. Let's go back over here. And I feel like they also play better when you kind of like tap them on like this with a brush, then like blend it out, because that's just my go-to. Like I just go to blend. But I feel like a shade like this, shades like these, work better when you're placing it on the eye. See, that's, I'm not gonna do it again just for, I feel like to keep it in line with what I'm saying, but look how intense that is. So that's on the second pass. That first pass, you could see it, but it wasn't, I would definitely go back and want a brighter eye. And I feel like, I'm trying to get as close as I can to the camera. I have like limited space. I love how bright those are, and I feel like you can definitely, looking at this color story, just those three shades, I immediately think of the Thirsty palette by Jeffree Star. To finish off, I think I'll do some shimmer shades down here in the bottom. Let's do this Dream Lover shade. Let's do Daydream. And then maybe we could do this. Whoa, I can't even read what it says anymore. Candy Trip? So we have three crazy shimmers, and of course I love these shimmers as well. I'm gonna try and do my best so I can see over here. So here's a purple one. We got a pink over here. Oh, just the prettiest, like cotton candy pink. And then we have this shade over here that also looks like a pink, but it's a pink with a gold reflect, and it's a little bit more of like a salmon color. Oh, it's harder to get that swatch down there. But I love how every shade also has, you know, it's complementary kind of shade right there. Just to show y'all as well, I want to show you what it looks like when we apply the shimmer shade on top of the matte shade, because I think that's also really beautiful, and I'm going to do it with the yellow because I love yellow, and I think this yellow is definitely approved. You can see that the yellow is leaking a little bit. But let's go this way. The shade placed on top of the matte shade just gives it even more intensity. Absolutely just makes your eyes freaking pop, and that's what I love about these, because I think I imagine, right, that it's hard to make a pastel shade, but make a pastel shade bright and intense, because I don't think people think of pastel shades as bright and intense. They're supposed to be a little bit more subdued, but these shades work for my skin tone, and if they work for my skin tone, I know they're going to work for everyone else who likes to wear makeup who's darker than me, who's more tan than me. You know what I mean? So absolutely recommend this. This palette, this pastel palette, is probably the best palette if you're like me, medium light, but just medium, tan, deep, dark, whatever you want to call it. These shades are definitely going to show up on your skin. They lasted a really long time. Like I remember, I feel like I took a nap wearing makeup. Sorry. I took a nap and I woke up and my eyeshadow was still good, and I was a little bit surprised by that because I had already been wearing it for several hours. I took a nap, I woke up, looked in the mirror, and my eyeshadow was still good. So I was like, wow, no way. I wish I could have used this palette during April, but I don't think I owned this palette for Easter time. But this is, again, another palette that I'm keeping. It's absolutely so freaking beautiful. I do recommend it again. I think this is a little bit on the pricier side, but this is one of the palettes where I'm like, okay, I don't want to say the price necessarily makes sense, but if this is what you're looking for and you're looking for something solid and good, I feel like the price tag does make sense. So out of these 3 palettes for the month of June, which one's your favorite? What are we thinking, y'all? I think I'm going to be keeping all 3 of these. I don't think I have a dud this month. I'm excited to be keeping these. I have currently, what's my goal right now? 6 palettes out. I know I failed last month and I was only able to review, look at, use 3 palettes in a month, which is crazy because before I was using 2 to 3 palettes a week. I'm taking it slow right now, but right now on my shelf, I'm looking at 6 new palettes I have not used. I'm hoping to get through July with a lot more palettes to review for the following month, but we shall see. Thank you for your patience with me. You'll have a lovely day.